Hello and welcome to Unions in the UK, a podcast about unions in the UK. My name is Henry, pronouns they, them, and I'm here with...
I'm Corey, my pronouns are she, her.
Very cool. How are you doing, Corey? What's been going on?
Yeah, not so bad. Just been, steady away with this strike ballot that's still going on. Hosting, I did 4 Zoom meetings over 2 days for people. The PCS gave me for the branch like a Zoom subscription, like a proper one.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so we get like a little like when you send out the meeting, it does like the URL has PCS in it, which I really love, and you can hold the meetings as long as you like. So I've just been holding loads of them. I've just been organising that. It's always surprising how many people think they can vote for a strike ballot online.
For sure.
Like we were talking to someone today, like one of my colleagues on the branch executive. We were sort of reaching out to people in the workplace, just being like, hey, have you voted? Have you got any questions? Anything we can help with? Do you need a replacement ballot? That kind of thing. And someone genuinely tried to blag to her, like, oh yeah, I've done that. I voted online. And like we were like, no, you haven't. No, you haven't.
That's so embarrassing. I've genuinely got like such I'm blushing so bad for that person's fucking attempt. Oh no.
Like they just wanted to awkwardly brush us off, or never think about it again. And that's, that sucks. But ultimately, that's their choice. But they fucked it up. They whiffed it.
They whiffed it bad. They need to prepare next time. Like. They need to get involved with the union a bit more to find out more stuff, so then they can blag not doing anything for it.
They need to come to one of my Zoom meetings so they know what I'm asking people to do to go on strike, so they can ignore it. Like, you've got to read my emails to be able to ignore my emails.
I just why are people paying whatever a month to just not do anything? I don't fucking understand.
Well, because people see it as insurance, don't they? Like
it's like a lawyer. It's a big lawyer for most people, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's been a problem with how trade unions are discussed and introduced. For years, it's
a problem with how some of them act.
It's also a problem with how some of them act. But it's one of the things that the organising training that I went through actually. Talked about, you don't want to say the union's insurance because it's not insurance. It's not a big lawyer. It's you and your colleagues and your co-workers all coming together to address the power imbalance in the workplace and improve things. It's not
for sure
that. But yeah, on the subject of organising training, what have you been up to?
What have I been doing?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I mentioned last time. Is it appropriate to mention? I am now the branch secretary for my union, so that's pretty fun.
Hell yeah!
I've got 3 emails because I'm broken inside and I love to collect emails. If anyone's listening who works in Manchester University, hey, hit me up. Trying to do something here. Don't quit, please. I know you want to, but we need to do something. Anyway, yeah. That's that aside. In terms of union stuff, minus that, our UCU balloting period is, I should know this. I'm pretty sure it's over. Or at least we passed the threshold where votes are no longer safe because of mail issues.
Yeah.
I should really know that, but I once I did all my phone banking, I had to step away because I got ill, and then my eye decided to fail me.
Yeah. They'll do that. Eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There has been a general problem I've found with clarity.
With eyes failing?
With eyes failing, yeah. but like with clarity from the union on like when specific deadlines are for like posting and stuff.
Oh,
like
no, so like
but I know that's
clear.
I know that's like tactical of like we don't want to tell you like this because then it might still get here a bit quicker than we're expecting it to, sort of thing.
I'm just gonna say Yushi's been very clear. I've just been a bit out of it in the last week or so of it. So you put out a thing on the 14th of October saying vote yes by Monday or forever accept loss. So Monday the 17th was the closing, I think. Yes, that's correct. And we're finding out results on Monday, so that's exciting. So that's me falling off because I was ill. Not due to stress either. Sinusitis, baby. Classic. But yeah, other than that, I've just been trying to organize my workplace for IWW. Speaking of which, what were we talking about last week? Or the week before? I've lost track of time.
We did actually talk about it last week. That's what sort of confused me about when you messaged me the other day, being like, "Oh, are you free to record this week?" And I'm like, "But we recorded last week, and we recorded last week because we fucked up, so we had to record and release in the same week, which is not something that we would prefer to do, but time makes fools of us all."
It does.
We were talking about organising a workplace, about what you need to do when you want to join a union.
Well, not necessarily, someone specific. What Debbie needed to do.
What Debbie do.
And you know what? It went fairly well for Debbie. She has created a People's Soviet up in Westminster. That really everyone knows that place. West Chesterton Field, Wiltshire. And the People's Soviet of West Chesterton Field, Wiltshire, is doing incredibly well. Well done, Debbie. This week we're going to be dealing with an alternate, a new worker. As of today, the day of recording, a certain someone might need the work. Today we're recording on the day that Prime Minister Liz Truss has stepped down after, the shortest period, whatever, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, but 44 days in office, the shortest period of any serving Prime Minister.
We love it's the move of someone who's incredibly lazy, and I love that for her. It's I don't want to do this anymore. Bye.
Yeah, she's
I get that.
Quiet quitting on the country.
Quiet quitting very loudly on BBC News.
She's just very good at it. She's quitting so effectively. It's become loud.
Yeah, it's quite impressive. But she needs the work now. And we're going to be teaching her how to organize today. So, Corey and I have both gone through our organizer training for our respective unions.
Yeah, so you went through...
Or respectful. Is it respective or respectful?
It's respective. So you went through yours... do you want to say which organisation you did yours with? Or?
Yeah. So I did mine with IWW,
okay.
And it was good. It was like a multi-week thing. It was very cool the way that they'd done it, because the idea was between each session you'd be doing some of the work and then coming to the next session with like your progress and like addressing any issues that have raised up and stuff. It was done in a really cool way.
Yeah.
The only issue, it went over like 6 weeks. So, but no, it was really good.
Yeah. I did mine similarly over 6 weeks with Organising for Power, which was organised through the Rosa Luxemburg Institute. And
Who's that?
Rosa Luxemburg, she's just some guy, you know?
Just some guy, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's fine. It's based on the organisation techniques and writings of Jane McAlvary, who is an organiser and campaign strategist from the US. It was like a big multinational group, so there were like people in Slovenia who were organising their union. There are people in the US. There were people from Africa, South America. It was really cool to see.
That's
like
really
how
fucking cool.
Yeah, it was fucking dope. But because it was so massive, we didn't get to focus quite so much on the go away, do some of the work, come back with problems. It was a little bit more theoretical.
I guess like the issues based on the country's respective laws.
Yeah, that was the thing, is like there's a lot of the techniques that exist in Jane's work are universally applicable.
Sure, yeah.
Like, cause the sort of two case studies that she brought as like examples. One was like a teachers' union strike in Chicago, I think, and the other was organising hospital workers in Germany. So like, cool. You know, it was still like she did try and apply it across different places, and it works still.
Nice.
And I still went away and did some of the work, and like came back to the little WhatsApp group for my training session, being like, I tried it out, and everyone's just like, oh, how'd it go? And I'm, you know, like, it went like a little bit badly because I don't really know what I'm doing because it's my first time trying it, sort of thing.
Sure.
But yeah, like it was still really good. There was still like practical stuff in sort of like role play ways. Like everyone loves a role play. Like unironically, I do think there's a lot of value in role play. Like people get quite bogged.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
People get quite bogged down and quite down on it and be like, oh, it's pointless. And it's like, it's not pointless if you actually use it to properly simulate what you'll be going through. And like, you know, there's you know, the World Transformed Festival in the UK, it tends to sort of be a bit more like the radical edge of lefty organising in the UK. Just a group that do basically leftist politicking in various ways. And like one of the groups that I'm aware of turn up there is Red Plenty Games, who do roleplay games, like tactical role playing.
Oh, cool.
They'll like give groups like scenarios where they've got to like take organising demands to councils and like role play it out and stuff like that. And it's like, it's really fucking cool. It's organised in part by Kate Milburn, who wrote Generation Left.
Yes,
and knows Alice
is on the.
Yeah, he's in Tub Thumping because I can't escape. I can't escape Chumbawamba.
That's because fucking people in the faces of leftism in the UK have been the same people for the last fucking like God knows how long.
Well, like, yeah, Christ. But that's because like that's a societal issue where the left got crushed in the late like in the 80s, and
why? What happened? Sorry.
You know, nothing happened. Nothing happened at all. Like just staring into space, like.
So let's get back to it. Uh-huh. Liz has got a lot on her plate now because she's speaking of the scenarios that Debbie was faced with last week or the week before. Liz is in a situation where she's going to have to organise her own workplace a little bit here. She's got a lot to contend with. But she's found herself in a workplace. She's kind of lost as to where to even start.
She's got no solidarity among her work colleagues. Like they're not coming together to present issues, to improve things. You know,
she doesn't even know their names. Like, She just nods and says morning, evening, bye to them. That's it. Happy Friday. Have a nice weekend. That's all she's done.
TGIF.
That's it. TGIF. I guess that's raising the first thing that's involved in organising. Please get to know your co-workers. As a bare minimum, it is kind of important that you know the people you're organising with, even if it like this is a preface to the getting to know your co-workers. Just get to know them as people. Be personal with them, like, and that's very, very difficult because I know a lot of us are terminally online. To organise your workplace, you do need to speak to people, especially you, Liz. So
yeah, I've personally found that really difficult because I sort of am of the mindset like I clock in, I do my hours, I go home. I don't want to think about work. I don't really want to do work after hours if I can avoid it.
Yeah.
Like I've got my own projects, I've got my own life going on, and it means that I can struggle to make that connection with people, and it's something that I'm constantly working on.
It is something that I'm also crap at as well, because I too turn up and go into this kind of fugue state where throughout the day I'll alternate between doing my work and looking at Twitter and the world imploding on itself, and then doing my work again. And then all of a sudden it's like 3:45 and I start my routine of finishing for the day. I start at 8 and finish at 4, just so everyone knows. I'm not just clocking off an hour early.
If you were, it'd be real cool.
It would be really cool, but unfortunately the fugue state only wakes me up just in time for the end of the day there. So yes, find out who you work with. You can't organize if you don't know anyone. It's good to know as well a little bit about them in relation to themselves personally, and also in relation to their work. So how long have they been working there? How connected they are to the company? What's their role in the company? And that's an important one. It's good to know who is a worker versus who is a manager versus who is a besties with the boss down the road, or who is like actually married to the chancellor of the university, for example. Just like things like this. Like it's good to know people for good reasons because you want to help them, and also to be aware of who might potentially be a problem. And quite often there's not that many people who are problems, but it's again good to know this.
Yeah, a lot of it as well is knowing who you can sort of go into detail about union stuff with later on.
Exactly,
like knowing like in my workplace there are managers who are part of the union. There are people who are like even higher than that who are part of the union because of how like the executive structure works, and people are like promoted from, like, there's a lot of internal promotion in these sorts of departments. So you end up with like managers and team leaders and group managers who are part of the union, and it sort of makes them a little bit safer to talk to in terms of like I'm doing this union work, this thing is happening, you need to sort of give me time and space to do that.
For sure,
I still wouldn't like, they're not like people that I would organise with because they're not that safe, but knowing that they're safe enough to be like, yes, I am doing union stuff, leave me be.
We talked about this, I think, in the first episode, where we were talking about how managers relate to quite like they're in a weird position where they do have responsibilities of workers, but they also have a responsibility to make sure to manage you and to make sure that you are doing the labor you are required to do, sort of thing. And so they exist in this weird middle space, but because of that they quite often take whichever one gives them the good money, and that's often the manager responsibilities.
Yeah, it's whichever one suits them in the moment. They are incredibly susceptible to like those kinds of pressures, which make sense. That's not like a a burn on them, like in
No,
their position, I would be different. I'm simply would be better. Fucking wouldn't be. Like, because that's not how it works.
I deliberately do not want to be a manager.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because it puts you in the position where you have to be that person.
Yeah. And like, as well as that, on the flip side, managers do so desperately want to be liked. Sometimes because they know of their position, and sometimes just because they that's who they are as a person. They just want to be liked. So they can often provide a decent. They can be a good ally to have.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't necessarily rely on them. And like, this is where mine and your union differ. At least one of my unions and yours differs. Managers are not allowed because of this relation they have to labour in the workplace.
Yeah, that is a really interesting thing, like to consider whether having people who have management responsibilities at all weakens the union. I think it's a solid argument to make. Honestly, I don't really have have a position where I can say it's definitely not, because you do have to think about like what managers do and the pressures that they're under and things like that, which has advantages and disadvantages.
Especially in like public sector and charity sector stuff, that every fucker's a manager. Like, even like you'll find like someone's been in the company for a year and now they're a manager, sort of thing. Like, it's everyone's line managing someone else, and it's very tricky. To
and like
unpick that a little bit
in terms of like management responsibility and stuff. Like where do you draw the line on that? Where does that come in? Like, is
what is someone who is responsible for your labor, sort of thing, and like versus like, I guess the first one coming to mind is project manager, because they're not really managing people. Like,
but they are under very similar pressures to traditional to people managers, because they have that sort of relationship, that closer relationship with like the executive sides, because they're the ones who have to listen firsthand to the nonsense plans and come up with an idea of how to make them even remotely feasible.
I again don't envy that position. That's why I don't want to be one.
It seems untenable to me. Like, it seems like you are forced into adopting the management side on stuff because that's your job. It's like HR as well. Like, HR, if you're ever in a meeting with HR, HR are not your friend. They're not on your side. They're there for the company. That's their job.
Human resources, as in you, the human, are a resource to be managed. That's what it means. It's not human as in humane. It's human as in that is something to exploit. So yeah, good to know your workers. Good to know what issues they have, how they relate to the company, things like that, and also just be friends with them, or at least cordial with them. You can have a laugh with them. You'd feel comfortable meeting up after work with them, sort of thing. And this can kind of help you with what I'm going to talk about in this next section. And part of this is related to this next section, and that is mapping and gathering information to understand the workplace. So we've talked briefly about getting to know people. That's your social mapping. Who are the employees? Who are the managers? What department or team are they in? How do they relate to one another? Things like that. And again, gathering information part, it's good to have things written down. It's very good to have things written down.
Not on a work system. Do not write them down and save them on the work system.
I have a story about that, not relating to me, but relating to the person who gave us training. Of course, it feels like they were deliberately picked because they have this horror story, but I'll get to that in a second. But identify your social leaders. So these are people who will often organize pub trips or like games nights or something. Like if someone is like very gregarious in that's a good word. I got it. If someone's like and very outgoing and stuff, they're usually going to be the type of person to be very handy for you in organizing. It's a lot easier, and social leaders, it's kind of an icky way of putting it, but they're handy people to have on board because they're incredibly likable, sort of thing, and they also can rally people to do stuff, which is very handy in a union where one of the main issues I've come into a little bit is apathy. So yeah, that's your social side of the mapping, and there are resources to do that out there. I was given my own from IWW, and then there's the physical mapping. Where do people sit in relation to who? What areas are occupied by who? Are there any congregation spots, coffee tables? Where do people take breaks? Where are their cameras if you want to do anything fun? Where are the boss's office, again, if you want to do something fun? Where's equipment stored if you need access to stuff? Things like this. And that is, again, it's good to draw out a map.
Yeah,
so like an actual... Go on, sorry.
I was going to say, I want to talk a little bit about this because it's one of the things that I found a bit difficult with the organising training and a bit with like how you imagine a union organising, because this is really important. Like, knowing these things is really important, but there doesn't seem to be anything that I've come across that accounts for the fact people are now working remotely.
Yes, and that is one issue that was raised during our training as well. There are ways that you can communicate with people away from prying eyes of managers. It quite often involves making a WhatsApp, but that's kind of tricky because you're asking people to go out of their way to join something that they wouldn't normally join, which is a tricky... I mean, like, you can say, like, hey, I've created this WhatsApp chat for, like, in my case, for the developers, to just, like, shoot the shit and stuff, and, you know, not necessarily talk about work, but you can do a little bit of ranting about work if you really want, but just so that they have that space away from people who are separate from the boss, to be able to build that rapport, and to also, you know, in case you need to, be able to organize stuff, or at least bounce ideas for that sort of thing. There are ways of doing it. It's not easy. A lot of this stuff, it's taken for a given that you're going to be face to face, but
yeah,
we don't live in that world anymore.
Yeah, and that's as I say, a bit of a difficulty that I've found with traditional organizing techniques, is that it doesn't account for the way things are now. It's a thing that you all often find on the left more broadly and in trade unionism. It does feel almost like you're fighting the last battle. You're not fighting the one you're fighting now. You're fighting the last one you had, kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, I think that's potentially a real weakness, and something that you should consider when you're organising is you need to be the ones putting the boss on the back foot. You can't be letting them constantly dictate the terms of engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. Because otherwise you're just going to be defending yourself the whole time, and kind of not making any progress, which is frustrating. So, and I've added this note here. Store this information securely, hidden away from hostile eyes. The guy who's giving us the training had a horror story where a lot of this stuff was being kept just on his work computer. And of course, like, they suspected him of doing union organizing. He left. No, I think he was suspected of doing union organizing. They just so happened to be taking the computers away to have managed software put on them. And I think I'm telling the story right. Watch me have butchered the story. But they found all of it. They found every single bit of it, which of course put them at quite a dramatic advantage, and puts you at risk of losing your job. I know it's illegal to be fired for doing union organizing, but it doesn't mean that they won't try and do it. Like, if they're not outright firing you, then giving you less work to do, eventually making you redundant, or moving you to a different department, or anything like that. Anything that looks less suspicious than just outright firing you, whatever, they'll do it. So keep it securely hidden. Not so secure that other people can't actually use it, but secure enough that you have it not on a work computer.
Yeah, like password protect it if you absolutely have to put it on a work computer. Because that at least puts a bit of a barrier in.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I guess Liz, in this case, she's met everyone in the workplace. She loves them all. She's one of the quote unquote social leaders. Actually, she's being an ex-prime minister, and it's weird because during her tenure as prime minister, she wasn't the best for words, and for like her grandiose speeches. But all of a sudden, she's in a sway. She's doing wonderful work. We don't know what company this is she's working for, but that's fine. I've been watching a lot of The Office recently, so I like to imagine she's selling paper. So once you've gathered a decent bit of information, it's also good to start building a bit of an organizing committee. You can't do all this by yourself. I mean, you can do bits of it by yourself, but once you reach a certain point, you're going to need help from this. And it's kind of the point to get other people to involved in this as well. You're going to want to start building this organizing committee and recruiting people to it. But how do you do that? Is that not really scary? Do you have to speak to people? God forbid. Yes, you do. In fact, you have to have quite often lots of one-on-one conversations.
One-on-one conversations are sort of the gold standard. Talking to people like directly really, really helps. Like obviously the big meetings and like email newsletters and things can be really useful for like generally getting ideas out there, but to like really connect with someone, it like one-on-one is, as I say, the gold standard.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's tricky. There's an argument to be made about not making it clear, but you don't want to trick someone into coming to meet you one-on-one and talking about union stuff. You do want to make it clear that are you free after or during work at some time so we can talk about work or something like that.
Yeah.
You don't want them feeling like, I mean, potentially as well, if they're on the fence about this sort of thing, you don't want to make them feel betrayed by you or anything. You also don't want the opposite, and something that we were warned to be careful about. You don't want them to think it's a date. Apparently that is an issue people have had quite a bit.
Oh no.
Where they've like, do you want to meet after work and talk about work? Wink wink. And the other person's gone, yeah, I want to do that. And the other person thought it was a date, and the other person pulls out a spreadsheet and starts talking about union shit.
No!
So yeah, just be aware.
Yeah. But like those conversations... Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, just finish the thought. Some people might see it as a date.
Yeah.
Be aware that you don't want to do that.
I was just going to say, this is where those social leaders come in really useful, because they can obviously introduce you to people, and then you're not some stranger just coming in and talking to someone like almost at random. Or if like you know someone who knows one of these social leaders and you want to get in with them, talk like having them introduce you kind of thing, really, really useful sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you'll probably need a lot of one-on-one conversations to hook people in. One, to initially, highlight these issues at work, because quite often people will be in the state where it's just a job. I go in, fugue state, clock out, get money. That's what everyone else does. That's our lot in life. You do that. You quite often have to introduce the idea a couple of times for it to stick.
Yeah, and it's really amazing what people will adapt to and will think of as normal, or at least it's not as bad as such a place or such a thing.
Oh Christ!
Like
yeah.
it's incredible.
Britain is a country of at least it's not as bad as X. Like that is everyone in this country. Like
it's internalizing that things could be worse so hard that it's forgetting things can be better as well.
Yeah, God. As the song goes, if just as an aside, if they use that during a general election campaign, if the big Labour Party decides to use things can only get better, I'm going to strangle someone to death.
Oh no, they're gonna be like meta about it and be like, the Tories couldn't be worse. Like
that's true.
True. They understand that 1997 happened. They just think they're living through 1997 too, in a lot of ways. So like they're just doing the knockoff.
1997 Part 2.
Yeah, they're just doing the knockoff sequel stuff. So it's not going to be things can only get better. It's going to be they can't be any worse, kind of thing.
I wonder how you could turn that into I bet there's a song for it.
Oh, there will be
an equally B, C, D tier or D list band that no one's heard of.
A D ream list.
A D ream list.
D ream tier.
Sorry. Sorry to bring up the big L, but
we're not talking about political parties unless it can be avoided. I'm setting that fucking line.
Yeah. Lots of conversations with people. So this is kind of a quote that we were given that helps you kind of understand people's response to it. So they'll and I'm gonna butcher this and butcher it some more when I try and explain it. So people will be divided into those who know the union, those who hear the union, and those who need to see the union. And that is a quote describing people's response to union activity. There are some of those who just need to know about the union and they'll be happy to join. Some of those will need to hear good things from other people from the union, and then some of those who need to see the union doing good things before they join. So you'll usually get a read off people. I mean, quite often you'll hear, "Oh, I was in a union, but they did nothing good for me or anyone else, so I left." There'll be those who, "Oh yeah, I heard dodgy things about it though, and they were doing this, that, and the others." And the others will, again, just need to know about it before they get involved. I had that quote. I thought it was interesting. It might be. Who knows? But yeah. Another note I put in here, and this is especially in regards to my organising for IWW, don't just recruit leftos. Like, I mean, they can be very handy. Like, definitely get them, but remember you're organising, at least for my union, you're organising the working class, not the left, sort of thing.
And like
the
this,
path of least resist.
I was just going to say, this sort of applies for like any sort of campaign stuff that you're doing, as well as like generally organising and getting a union together. If you're running a campaign, you don't just want to preach to the converted. You don't just want to reach out to the like union activists to get stuff done, because they're already on board. They're already doing it. Like yeah, you're almost wasting your time going back to them. Yeah. You're not wasting your time, because what you do with them is you recruit them into getting in touch with other people, with doing other stuff that they're not already doing. But you can't. They're a group of people who, like, the best thing they can do is yell about what they've already been doing, rather than like approaching them, expecting them to do what you would expect any other member to do, because they're already activists.
Sure.
They're already involved.
Yeah. And again, I've put here, it also leads to complacency. You kind of rely on the same people. Leads to complacency and leads potentially to, I mean, this is an aside, leads to burnout. Like if you're just leaning on the same people over and over again, they're going to get shattered.
Yeah.
Which is like a problem. Is as well, like you should definitely tackle your fear of talking to non-radical people. It's going to be rough, not going to lie. Like it will be rough. It's there are people who will have some takes that are not wonderful, but these people are all equally as affected by the company's shitty policies or dodgy ideology or whatever, and a bad take can be a good one at some points. And it's kind of tricky because you don't want to cause harm to the other workers in this coalition or this organizing committee that you're building. But at the same time, you don't want to exclude people to be harmed as well. There is most likely going to have to be some discussions to be had, for sure. It's a tricky one, but doesn't mean you should just ignore that. That is to say, if someone's being directly hostile to other members, fuck them. Like, yeah, just like absolutely.
Yeah, you don't have to deal with people who are being hostile just because they're part of the union. Like, there is a level to which you need to handle a degree of like interpersonal issues. Like, you're not going to be friends with everyone. Like,
no,
like
sure.
The big caveat of like the earlier parts about getting to know people in the union and to organise with, the big caveat of that is you're not going to get on with all of them, you're not going to click with all of them, and that's fine. But if they're actively being a prick, if they're actively making people unsafe, if they're actively a problem, then what they are is a barrier to solidarity, not someone who's taking part in it. And like, I think a really interesting example in this is if you look at like online forums, if you sort of look at the way some of them are moderated, where it's like, well, we've got to sort of let everyone be part of this because, you know, we're one big community all organised around this shared interest.
Sure.
Like, a lot of people are like, oh, you know, we gotta just deal with the dickheads because there's dickheads everywhere, sort of thing. But it's only when you get rid of them do you see like much more vibrant community, much more engaged with one another.
For sure.
And yeah, that's the line you've sort of got to walk with this kind of thing as well. Of people you work with should be involved and should feel welcome. If they're making other people feel not welcome, they are a problem that has to be addressed.
Yes, yeah. And so, the hopeful thinking, the most hopeful, they are unaware of the damage they're causing and just need that pointed out to them. Worst case scenario, they're just being horrific because they hate a minority, or they hate, like, they're just being dickheads, like, they're ultimately harming the workers of which you're trying to organize. They're not helping. Get them out. Get them gone. Yes, and that is again not an easy step. Like, again, you're dealing with people, and people are complicated. That is not to say that I am not complicated. Like, I can be as irritating as anyone else. I thrive on it. But yeah, like, it's going to be tricky, especially all kinds of, not to get engage in fucking personality types, but people with different personalities will clash.
We're not doing
I will
fucking personality typing. We're not doing it.
No, fucking hell. No, we're not, because it's fucking nonsense. Yes. So, and then it's a process of what was called in our training AEIOU, which is agitating, educating, inoculating, organising, unionising. What does that mean? Doing things like explaining why certain, or at least covertly, introducing ideas to people through your organising to help them understand things, that the way you're responding things, or the way that you successfully deal with problems in the workplace. Unions are and should always be educational. They should be there to help teach people how to organise and how to spot things in the workplace. So yeah, that is an important part of it. Inoculation is how to spot things that the workplace is doing deliberately to union bust. Doing things like, Royal Mail, for example, threatening to cut 10,000 jobs and blaming it on the strike. That is pretty effective union busting, but union busting nonetheless. It implies that the reason they're doing so bad is because people on strike, and not that they were doing badly before people went on strike.
Yeah.
Or before there was union activity, sort of thing. So there'll be a lot of that, especially when you are a threat. There will be a lot of that.
Yeah, this is in our training. This is sort of what we address with role plays, like thinking through what those problems are going to be, what issues people are going to have that you need to inoculate them against, talking those through with other organisers. And yeah, just to toot the little roleplay horn again.
Roleplay is very handy.
Yeah.
What we were given in our training was a load of example emails that a workplace had sent to everyone in the workplace to kind of trick you or to make you feel not worth it to join a union. So they'd say things like, "Oh, union dues, that's a lot of money that you could use to buy pizza at the end of the week, You could you save that up, you could get a PlayStation. Times are tough at the moment. You don't want to be spending all that money on a union who'll make decisions for you. You don't want that. You want to make your own decisions, like buying the pizza or the PlayStation." And it's always that twist. It's always it's always that the union's there to take away your autonomy. They're going to turn you into a cog in the machine. But me, the employer, I'm actually the good guy here. I'm giving you freedom.
I, the corporation, am your friend and family.
Yes. And it's always that. They will always say the opposite of what is true in a way that, and quite often, depending on how feral they are, and they will go there, is they'll start playing up to British values or American values or insert country here values or whatever, and they're trying to make us look bad. We're Britain. We've got to stiff up a lip. We've got to battle through these difficult times. You can't just throw a strop every time something bad happens, and that will appeal to a lot of Brits. That will There's
a specific weakness to that kind of thinking. Yeah. But one of the ways that you inoculate against that the union just want to use you, they want to make decisions for you, it's in the language you use about how you talk about the union. You don't want to talk about the union when you can avoid it. It's you and your co-workers. Yes, yeah. It's you and your colleagues. It's your colleagues in this department were doing this. Your co-workers in this department have done that. Your co-workers across the country are organising for this. So you're going to get involved. You. Rather than we, us, or the union. because you sort of want people to feel involved and feel that like responsibility for being involved. So it's you statements. Fucking love them.
Yes. I mean, like, you fucking see that in the way that the news reports on, like, union stuff. They'll say, this union is doing this, and it is affecting workers. Now workers can't do what they want, and like, artificially splitting the two apart when the union is workers.
Yeah.
It's workers are doing this thing, and some workers are complaining about this, but other workers are actually doing something like that. It's the old what's the word? Rhetoric. It's a pain in the ass, is what it is. But yeah, so that's do that. Keep doing that, building up the this organizing committee, and this is kind of an iterative process. So you build your organizing committee, you get to know your coworkers again, you gather and map more information, continue building your organizing committee, and continually do that, and eventually you'll get to a point, and we'll get to that in a second, where you can actually associate with a union or form your own if you really want to, or whatever. But before you can get to that, you need to know how to run a committee, and this will be different depending on the workplace and the union that you're trying to like form a branch for, or the union you're trying to form, full stop, which will be very tricky. But again, if you're desperate for it, but yeah, you need like to run this democratically, sort of thing. For a successful committee, you want like regularly turning up members to meet regularly, make decisions collectively, organize collectively, and do this. And this is going to be the point where there will be friction, because people are going to have different ideas to what decisions they want to make, and what things they want to do. Some people might just not like each other. Some departments as well, and this is a tricky one, some departments might have interests that are counter to the interest of another department.
Yep.
Which is tricky. Which is why and even in the same workspace, a certain role might have conflicting interests with another role, even if they're both workers. So there will be frictions. Prepare for that. Write down like what's the risk assessment. I mean, you can't fucking risk assess everything, but like, what could go wrong in your meetings? How are you going to plan to do your meetings? What do you do in the case of like if you're voting on a decision? What do you do if there's a deadlock? Do you vote for 50% threshold? Do you vote for 2/3 threshold on things? What do you do if like those fail and there's no consensus? This thing needs to be planned and organized, and again, preferably democratically and collectively. I mean, if it's you by yourself, it's kind of tricky to do until you start building up people. But again, it's why you need like IWW. They say at least 3 members in this organizing committee, but you can have again 3. I guess makes sense because you have an odd number, and 2 people doesn't feel much of a committee. So yeah, you continue running that committee. Repeat this process of getting to know more people, map and gather information, recruit members, run the committee, and you do that enough, and then in the future, if you are trying to create a union branch, once you meet that union specific prerequisite, you can form that branch, and that's kind of the end point for this episode. You've organized your workplace into a union branch. Congratulations, you did it.
Yeah.
Well done, Liz.
Go, Liz.
Congratulations, Liz.
We stand a girl boss.
We stand a girl boss.
But yeah,
a girl union boss.
A woman's place is in the union.
Don't say woman's place in union at the same time.
But yeah, this has been a really whistle-stop tour to sort of the concepts of organising. We might revisit some of these in detail a little bit later. Things like organising the workplace and holding like structured conversations around a campaign, whether that's like getting union recognition, strike ballots, whether that's working for a particular improvement in your pay or conditions, whatever. These things have similarities in how you can effectively have these conversations with people, and we might revisit them later. I can only really recommend you read Jane McAlvary's books. They're really good. The ideas in there are really, really solid and applicable to the majority of workplaces as I understand them. The major issue, as I said, is concerns about like digital organising and organising for groups that aren't located in a traditional sort of workplace environment, for which you'd probably need to look up. I think I've mentioned before things like how the IWGB organised Deliveroo drivers and what they were doing, because that's a different animal altogether than the majority of union organising, or majority of traditional union organising. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, thank you for listening to this episode. I hope it's been useful. I know there were very broad strokes. There's a lot of nitty gritty that we did not go into because we do not have time. Again, both of us did this over like 6 weeks. So like condensing 6 weeks worth of information into a 50-minute podcast, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah. Beep, 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 beep. Alert. Cool announcement. We have a YouTube channel now where I've been uploading all the other episodes to. You can go find it if you want. We currently do not have our own custom URL because we are under 100 subscribers. Fortunately, we are not YouTube royalty yet, but one day maybe. If you want to find us, we're just Unions in the UK over on there. You will have to search for us because, again, we do not have a URL Lamau. If you want to find us on other social media, we have a Twitter. It's just Unions in the UK over on Twitter. And we have an email, which is unionsintheuk@gmail.com. The music in this episode was Solidarity Forever by Intellectual Darkwave. Nearly forgot it. So very sorry if you're still listening. You can find them over on Bandcamp under the same username. They're also on Instagram, which is where I asked their permission to use their song. Corey.
Yeah.
Any parting words?
No. Honestly, I'm just very exhausted. Everyone, make sure if you're a part of a union that is balloting on anything, tell the union committee that you voted, for the love of God.
Oh yeah, please.
Just reach out. Please be active. It's so much easier to record responses than it is to reach out to get responses, to then record responses. Yeah. Please.
And then get called like a telephone tyrant or an email tyrant. Or
yeah, be told someone voted in a postal ballot online.
Like, yeah. Just be lied to. Say someone telling you that they voted a week before the voting has even opened. Don't know how they did that. It's quite impressive. Good on them, honestly.
That's organisation. That's time management.
Yeah.
That's grace. That's poise.
Oh my god. Fuck's sake. Okay. Thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you in the next one at some undisclosed point in time.
Yeah, like 2 weeks probably, or maybe more.
Yes.
Who knows?
Who knows? Bye all.
Bye.